Have you ever felt that sudden, unexplained chill? You know, the one that just makes the hairs on your arms stand right up, even when there's no breeze at all.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you've seen like a flicker of light out of the corner of your eye, or a shadow that just seemed to move on its own, leaves you questioning what you just saw.
Mm-hmm. There's something universally captivating about the unexplained, isn't there? That thrill of a good ghost story, a potential haunting encounter.
Yeah.
It really can send shivers down your spine.
Totally. It's almost primal.
It really is. It's a primal human fascination, definitely. These moments, whether they're truly supernatural or maybe just our minds trying to find patterns, they tap into something deep in our collective consciousness.
Right.
They make us consider that maybe, just maybe, there's more to the world than what we can easily see. And that's often where the legends really start to breathe,
You've really nailed that, the core human draw to these stories. And building right on that primal fascination, today we're diving headfirst into that very realm. Our mission for this deep dive is to try and unravel some of the most spine-tingling tales, the reported paranormal activities, and, importantly, the rich historical context that make these specific locations so utterly intriguing.
Mm-hmm. The history is key.
Absolutely. We've poured over a whole stack of incredible sources, articles, detailed research, and some really compelling first-hand accounts. These come from seasoned ghost hunters, just curious tourists, even the staff members who actually work in these places.
So a real mix of perspectives.
Exactly. And you're going to hear about all sorts of locations. We're talking grand, historic hotels with some seriously dark pasts, military sites echoing with conflict, and even these perplexing phenomena like vanishing lights that have puzzled people for generations.
Sounds fascinating.
So, yeah, settle in because we're about to explore the deeply supernatural side of the natural state, Arkansas.
And what's truly fascinating here, something that I think we'll keep coming back to today, is how these stories aren't just random spook tales. They almost always seem to intertwine with significant historical events or, profound personal tragedies.
That's a really good point.
It gives them a depth that goes way beyond just simple frights. And it raises this important question right from the get-go. Do these places somehow retain an energetic imprint of past events? Like a psychic recording almost?
Yeah.
Or is it more the human retelling, the belief itself, that breathes life into the legends and keeps them going for generations? We'll see some compelling arguments for both sides, I think.
That's a fantastic framework for our journey. And when we talk about an energetic imprint, just for our listeners, we're basically referring to the theory that really intense human emotions, especially during traumatic events, can leave a kind of psychic residue on a physical location.
Like an echo.
Exactly, like a non-conscious recording. It's a fascinating idea, and we'll definitely see it pop up again and again today. So to really kick off our journey into Arkansas's haunted hotels, our sources immediately pointed us to a place often called America's Most Haunted.
Ah, yes.
The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. What gives this particular place such a chilling reputation?
Well, it certainly seemed to earn that title. It started life as this grand Victorian hotel back in 1886, built for luxury, healing waters, all that.
Right.
But its most chilling chapter, according to all of the research, really began in the 1930s. This was when a man named Norman Baker, and I use the term man loosely here, maybe charlatan is better.
Yeah.
He had absolutely no medical training, but he operated what he called a cancer hospital within its walls.
Wow. In the hotel?
In the hotel. Patients, many desperate for any kind of cure, underwent his highly experimental and, frankly, often horrific procedures. The accounts we've looked at indicate that many, sadly, died there, often because of his complete lack of qualifications and the just barbaric nature of his treatments.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. That period undoubtedly infused the hotel with immense suffering, despair, and just this profound sense of unresolved pain.
And from a paranormal perspective, that kind of suffering isn't just history, right? It's considered by many to be a potent form of psychic energy. Researchers often theorize that such intense, sustained emotional trauma can imprint itself on a location.
Right, the residual haunting idea.
Exactly, where the suffering itself kind of replays. And the Crescent seems to have a mix of things going on. Guests and staff have reported numerous specific ghost sightings. There's Michael, for instance.
Mm-hmm. The stonemason?
Yeah, supposedly a stonemason who fell to his death during the hotel's construction. And Theodora, another reported spirit, said to be a former patient of Baker's.
Right.
And maybe the most unsettling one, a nurse pushing a gurney down a third-floor hallway. Just an echo of the hospital's grim operations.
And what's intriguing here is that you see different types of activity. Figures like Michael and Theodora, if they are conscious entities interacting, well, that would be categorized as an intelligent haunting.
Meaning they're aware.
Yeah, aware of the living, maybe capable of communicating or reacting. But that nurse pushing a gurney, that sounds more like a residual haunting, like a loop playing back a past event. The spirit isn't necessarily aware of the present.
Okay.
And this hotel seems to be a hot spot for both types, which makes it incredibly active. And beyond just seeing things, there's even tangible, really macabre evidence of this past.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, in recent years, a landscaper actually dug up a dump site on the hotel grounds.
No way.
Yeah. And this site was filled with bottles containing medical specimens, weird concoctions, believed to be from Baker's morgue.
Oh, my God.
Finding that doesn't just confirm Baker's gruesome past, it acts as this chilling physical anchor for that unsettling energy. It makes the connection between the suffering and the reported hauntings feel disturbingly real.
That discovery alone adds such a visceral layer. It's really no wonder that certified mediums have claimed the hotel is a portal to the other side, and that the ghost tours there are so popular. You can literally walk through these layers of history and reported hauntings.
It's intense.
Okay, so from one grand, famously haunted hotel, let's journey across the state to the Arlington Resort Hotel and Spa in Hot Springs. This one's even older, built in 1875, and it also has a long-standing association with paranormal activity, but maybe hinting at a different kind of presence.
Yeah, the Arlington, with its historic grandeur, has definitely seen its share of famous and infamous guests over the years. The material we reviewed highlights particular rooms as hotspots. Room 824 gets mentioned a lot. Strange happenings reported there.
Okay.
And then there's room 443. This one is famously associated with the gangster Al Capone.
Ah, Capone.
Exactly. Guests who stayed in that specific suite claim to have experienced unusual events, suggesting maybe his larger-than-life personality left a strong imprint.
And what's really fascinating here, and maybe a bit telling, is something our sources mention about a former policy. For many years, the staff at the Arlington were apparently required to deny any paranormal activity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were afraid it would hurt business. Can you imagine being told to keep a straight face while, a bottle flies off a shelf in front of you?
Wow. That adds an interesting layer, doesn't it? It suggests the hotel management knew something was going on, even if they wouldn't admit it publicly.
Right. It makes you wonder just how much activity was really happening if it needed an official gag order.
That kind of internal suppression often makes the stories even more compelling for believers, It fuels that sense that there's a hidden truth. And beyond specific room incidents, there are other reports too, like wine bottles supposedly falling from shelves for no reason, lights flickering.
Physical stuff?
Yeah, physical manifestations that are harder to just dismiss as imagination. It suggests a pretty active, if maybe unseen, force at play within those opulent halls.
The Arlington's kind of subtle but persistent phenomena offer one type of haunting. Now, let's hop back towards Eureka Springs, actually just a stone's throw from the Crescent, to another hotel with its own reputation, the Basin Park Hotel. This one dates back to 1905.
Right, the Basin Park. With its distinct turn-of-the-century charm, it seemed to present a more, maybe pervasive haunting. Guests and staff frequently report encounters with shadowy figures, unexplained noises, ghostly apparitions pretty much throughout the building.
So, more general, less tied to one specific story.
Generally, yes, although one particular legend does stand out and adds a poignant layer to its history.
Which is?
The hotel's most famous ghost is said to be a young woman who tragically fell to her death from one of the upper floors.
Ah, classic tragic accident.
Exactly. It's a common archetype in hauntings, a spirit tied to an abrupt, violent end. And it's not just casual visitors reporting things. Paranormal investigators have apparently frequented the hotel, claiming to experience distinct cold spots, those classic flickering lights.
The usual toolkit readings.
Pretty much. But these specific claims from experienced investigators, people actively looking for evidence, do lend a different kind of weight to the stories. It suggests a consistent, maybe even measurable energy signature there.
Okay, so we've checked into some pretty unsettling hotels, but now our deep dive takes a more intimate turn. We're venturing into the private, often deeply personal spaces of Arkansas's haunted homes and mansions. It's within these walls, steeped in generations of family life and often profound tragedy, that the lingering presences can feel, well, all the more poignant, and the stories sometimes far more heartbreaking.
You're absolutely right. Private homes, unlike, say, public hotels, can concentrate a family's joy, sorrow, and trauma over generations in a really dense way.
Right.
This often leads to more personal, deeply entrenched hauntings, sometimes tied to specific, singular, and deeply traumatic events within the house itself, almost like a psychic wound that never truly heals.
And few stories illustrate that better, I think, than the Allen House in Monticello. It's described as this gorgeous Queen Anne and Gothic-style home built in 1906. But beneath that architectural beauty lies a truly dark history, centering on one person, Liddell Allen.
Yes, the historical accounts we studied recount Liddell's tragic story. It happened back in 1948. She'd returned home after a divorce, kind of seeking solace, and tragically reconnected with a former high school sweetheart.
Okay.
But he was already married. The affair went on until he decided he wouldn't leave his wife, leaving Liddell completely distraught. In a desperate act, she took her own life right there in the house using cyanide.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly sad.
It's a deeply sad narrative. Heartbreak, desperation, finality. It really sets the stage for what happened next in that house.
And here's where it gets really strange, and frankly, deeply unsettling. Her grieving mother, maybe in denial, maybe grief, maybe trying to trap the memory somehow. She sealed off the room where Liddell died.
Sealed off completely.
Completely for 40 years. Can you imagine living in a house knowing there's this room locked away, holding such a dark secret, the exact spot where such a profound tragedy occurred? The psychological weight alone
Must have been immense. And the impact of that sealed room on people who live there later is chilling. Tenants, when the house was apartments, reported hearing footsteps and moans coming from that closed-off room.
No.
Yeah, and they even claimed to see a woman in the window, maybe Liddell herself, an intelligent manifestation, or maybe a residual echo.
Wow.
Then, in 1985, new owners finally opened the room. Well, get this. They found not only the cyanide bottle, but also over 90 letters detailing Liddell's secret relationship.
They found the letters too?
Yeah. This physical discovery didn't just confirm how she died. It validated so many of those earlier whispered claims about the room's tragic history. It literally unearthed the source of all that emotional energy.
It's like the house itself was holding on to the secret, just waiting for someone to find it, to finally acknowledge her pain. And apparently, Liddell wasn't alone in there. Paranormal experts who've investigated the house have reportedly identified as many as 6 distinct spirits.
6. Wow. Makes you wonder what other layers of tragedy or presence built up over time.
Exactly. Unfortunately for ghost hunters, the house was sold in 2024 and isn't open for tours anymore, so a really rich piece of haunted history is now private again.
Shame, in a way.
Yeah. Okay, next, let's travel to Bentonville, to the Peel Mansion. This was built by Colonel Samuel W. Peel back in 1875. Another grand home, and it also seems to have its share of persistent spectral residents, though their stories are maybe a bit different.
Yes, so the rumor here is that 3 former residents continue to haunt the mansion. This includes Colonel Peel himself and his daughter, Minnie Bell.
Okay.
Visitors often describe distinct sensory experiences, not just seeing things, but hearing disembodied footsteps and voices, and seeing objects move on their own. Suggests a pretty active, tangible presence.
Things moving. That's unsettling.
Definitely. It engages more than just sight, which makes it particularly compelling for witnesses.
And there's an especially eerie detail that really paints a picture. The phantom pianist.
Ah, yes.
Visitors claim to hear piano music coming from the parlor, like a beautiful haunting melody. But when they go into the room, it's completely empty and silent.
It could be a residual echo. Maybe someone loved playing the piano there. Or perhaps an intelligent spirit trying to communicate through music. Either way, it's such a poignant detail.
It really is.
But what's truly fascinating here, and maybe a bit unsettling, is a really unique story connected to the house after the Peel family sold it. A daughter of the next owners, a girl named Marjorie, got gravely ill with appendicitis.
Okay.
After 10 days, she was actually believed to have died. They even covered her with a sheet. But wait, a few hours later, the sheet moved. Marjorie revived, and she went on to survive the whole ordeal.
Wow, that's incredible.
Incredible. But it deeply troubled the superstitious farm workers at the time. They developed this belief that because she'd been covered by the sheet, her spirit hadn't re-entered her body properly. They thought her spirit was no longer truly with her. or maybe part of it remains separate.
That's a really strange, kind of chilling folk belief, born from something that couldn't explain medically, I guess.
Exactly. And the story comes full circle. Marjorie, much later in life, visited her childhood home. She found that the very room where she'd been so sick, where she had essentially died, was kept closed off.
Why?
When she asked why, she was told it was because the room was haunted by a little girl.
Get out. Could it have been her own, lingering energy from that trauma?
That makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could it have been her own lingering spiritual echo from that traumatic near-death event? A part of her essence imprinted on the space. It adds such a personal and really chilling layer to the house's history.
Definitely raises questions about how trauma, even if survived, can leave a mark. Can a part of you become energetically tied to a place during a near-death moment? Marjorie's story is anecdotal, sure, but it's compelling food for thought.
Absolutely. It highlights the deep psychological and potentially energetic impact of such experiences.
Okay, from these deeply personal family tragedies, we move to a place marked by more collective sorrow. The Clayton House in Fort Smith. Built in the 1800s, its history is deeply tied to the Civil War. It served as a hospital during that time.
And as a Civil War hospital, it was undoubtedly a site of immense suffering and many, many deaths. That kind of historical trauma, especially from a period of intense conflict and loss, often just saturates a location.
Right.
The house eventually became the home of William Henry Harrison Clayton, who renovated it into this beautiful Italianate-style home in 1882. But even with the renovations, the echoes of its past reportedly lingered. Shows how strong that imprint can be.
That certainly seems to be the case. People report strange occurrences, footsteps, disembodied voices coming from empty rooms, and then there are the sightings of figures dressed in period clothing.
Suggesting spirits from that era.
Exactly. Perhaps doctors, nurses, maybe the soldiers themselves still playing out their final moments or duties.
And what's particularly compelling are the specific identifications of some spirits. There's talk of a tall, angry man, described as tall, dressed in black, angry face, wearing a top hat.
Sounds very distinct.
Very. Sounds like an intelligent haunting, a specific personality still present. And then there's a woman, often seen in a brown skirt with her hair in a bun. Could be residual, could be intelligent.
Okay.
And get this, our sources mention a carpenter working on the house in 2008. He took some photos of his repair work, just documenting it. Later, looking at the photos, he found this woman in the brown skirt had unexpectedly appeared in one of them.
Whoa! Photographic evidence.
Well, alleged photographic evidence. But that kind of visual claim, even if people debate it, is incredibly powerful in cementing these stories in people's minds.
A photo really can make a legend feel solid. Okay, shifting gears slightly to maybe lighter haunting, perhaps more playful. We come to Mr. Lyle's house in Jonesboro, built in 1926 by Jimmy Lyle himself. I think some spirits just want to keep the good times rolling.
It's an interesting contrast to the tragedies, isn't it? The accounts we've seen describe fun-loving spirits here, including Mr. Lyle himself, who's reportedly been seen wandering around.
So not all hauntings are scary.
Apparently not. It speaks to the idea that maybe not all spirits are tied to tragedy. Some might just linger in a place they loved where they felt joy, continuing their presence in a more benign way.
And the stories definitely lean into that fun-loving vibe. During a renovation in 2006, construction workers taking a break claimed they heard a child laughing and running around upstairs.
Okay.
When they went to check, the house was completely empty. It's a playful, almost mischievous presence. Not threatening, but definitely unexplained.
And that playful nature seems to extend to direct encounters, too. One family living there in the 70s had a daughter who woke up screaming one night. She said she saw a little boy standing at the foot of her bed. But then he apparently smiled at her before running right through the wall and disappearing.
Through the wall, a classic ghost move.
Totally. A very iconic ghost story trope. Suggests a recurring, maybe innocent presence that seems to be interacting directly, perhaps even trying to play, rather than being trapped in some tragic loop.
It's those little details, like the boy smiling, that really make these stories stick with you. They feel more personal, less like just a generic haunting. It reminds us that spirits, if they exist, might be as varied in personality as living people.
A good point.
Our journey through Arkansas's eerie landscapes now takes us to sites steeped in conflict, justice, and public service military installations and courthouses. These places often carry the heavy echoes of really significant historical events, where intense human drama played out on a grand scale.
What's particularly compelling about these locations is just the sheer intensity of human emotion and dramatic events that happened within their boundaries. Battles, imprisonment, stern justice, sometimes brutal executions.
Right.
It's really no surprise that these energies are believed to leave such a lasting, potent imprint, making them hotbeds for reported paranormal activity.
Let's start with Fort Chaffee and Fort Smith. This is a vast former military base with a genuinely chilling history that spans decades and multiple conflicts.
Fort Chaffee has served many purposes over the years, and each one seems to have left its mark. Our research indicates it was a housing site for German POWs during World War II,
Okay.
and later for Cuban refugees. Sadly, it's been the site of hundreds of deaths over the years, whether through combat training, accidents, or just the sheer number of people passing through under duress. This diverse, often tragic occupancy creates fertile ground for lingering presences, a concentration of varied human experiences ending abruptly.
And that's exactly what's reported. There are stories of haunted barracks, places where soldiers once lived and slept, and accounts of ghostly soldiers who are still said to walk the grounds, maybe continuing their eternal patrol.
Still on duty.
Kind of. And it's not just local lore either. The site got national attention when it appeared on the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures.
Ah, that brings attention.
For sure. That kind of exposure often means there's consistent, maybe even tangible activity that draws in professional investigators.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, military sites like Fort Chaffee often become these nexus points for paranormal activity, probably due to the concentrated energy of discipline, fear, camaraderie, and sudden, often violent death.
Makes sense.
The collective human experience there was just so profound, so intense, it's almost logical that it might resonate beyond the physical, leaving behind a powerful echo. Often speaks to a sense of unfinished duty or unresolved trauma.
Absolutely. From military training, let's turn to military history at the MacArthur Museum of Arkansas Military History in Little Rock. The building itself has really deep roots, originating as a Civil War-era arsenal built way back in 1840.
Yeah, a Civil War arsenal is, by its very nature, a place of intense activity and potential tragedy. The sources we looked at detail various causes of death right on this site. Arsenal accidents, explosions maybe.
Could be.
Violent Civil War battles fought nearby, executions carried out there, and even a duel.
A duel. Wow.
Yeah. Each of these events would have been incredibly impactful, contributing to a deeply charged atmosphere where spirits might be restless, perhaps replaying their final moments.
And that charge seems to manifest in various ways. Visitors and staff have reported seeing shadowy figures and hearing unexplained noises, but it gets more specific than that.
How so?
Accounts mention encounters with disembodied voices, hearing things when no one's there, seeing full apparitions like fully formed figures, and distinct shadow figures as well. What's the difference between, say, an apparition and a shadow figure?
It's a good question. A shadow figure is usually described as a dark, indistinct human-like shape, often seen just peripherally out of the corner of your eye. Could be residual or intelligent.
Okay.
Disembodied voices are purely auditory, suggesting maybe an intelligent spirit trying to communicate. And full apparitions are typically visual, fully formed figures that appear quite clearly, often indicating an intelligent haunting capable of manifesting quite powerfully.
Gotcha.
The fact that all these types of phenomena are reported here suggests it's a highly active location. And like Fort Chaffee, this building has been featured on numerous paranormal activity shows and toured by acclaimed experts. That indicates a level of consistent activity that draws serious attention, implying maybe more than just random energy fluctuations.
From the battlefield and arsenal to the courtroom. Our next stop is the Fort Smith Courthouse, a place synonymous with one of the most iconic and maybe grim figures in Arkansas history, Judge Isaac C. Parker.
Ah, yes. The hanging judge.
Yeah.
His nickname alone tells you a lot about his legacy, doesn't it?
Definitely sets a tone.
Judge Parker presided there for 21 years. And during that time, his court was known for stern, often brutal justice. The accounts we reviewed state he handed out an astounding 160 death sentences.
160?
Yeah. And 79 of those executions were actually carried out on the gallows located right outside the courthouse. The sheer weight of that many lives ending in one spot under such severe decree, it creates an immense spiritual intensity, you'd think.
You can almost feel the tension just thinking about it. And it's no surprise then that the belief is that the ghosts of these condemned men still roam the area. Many visitors report a really spine-tingling experience just standing in the reconstruction of those gallows, feeling the palpable weight of the past.
Makes the history feel incredibly real, immediate.
Totally.
And beyond the gallows, the hauntings apparently extend into the courthouse itself. Employees and visitors have reported hearing gavels banging in empty courtrooms.
Order in the spectral court.
Maybe. And the ropes on the gallows swinging when there's no wind. These could be residual echoes or perhaps intelligent spirits making their presence known. What's really intriguing, though, is an account of a groundskeeper who allegedly spoke to Judge Parker's ghost. Not at the courthouse, but at the Fort Smith National Cemetery, where Parker is buried.
Spoke to his ghost.
That's the story. Suggests a more interactive, intelligent haunting. A conscious spirit still capable of communication and extending beyond the original site of his work.
That's a direct encounter, which feels much more chilling than just residual energy.
Okay, moving to another courthouse with a very specific and kind of cursed haunting. The Desha County Courthouse in Arkansas City. Beautiful Romanesque revival-style building built in 1900 on the National Register of Historic Places. But it's the clock tower that holds a particularly dark secret. This is a classic tale of a curse, the kind you often find in local folklore where an intense emotional outpouring is believed to have a lasting impact on a physical object.
Right.
The material we examined introduces a ghost named Willard, supposedly hangs around there.
Yeah.
But the central legend really revolves around that clock tower.
What's the story?
The story goes that a man, after losing a lot of money gambling, went on a destructive spree and burned down a hotel and some other buildings. He was tried at this courthouse and sentenced to hang.
Okay.
Before his execution, apparently in a moment of profound rage and despair, he cursed the courthouse clock. Declared it would never work right again after he died.
Mean.
And chillingly, our sources confirm, the clock reportedly hasn't worked correctly since.
No way. It still malfunctions.
That's the claim. It lends such a powerful, almost tangible validation to the legend. A physical manifestation of a curse, maybe.
Wow. That's specific.
Very. And beyond the cursed clock, workers in the courthouse have also reported hearing footsteps and doors slamming for no apparent reason. Suggests other, perhaps less dramatic presences within its historic walls. Or maybe just the continued agitated energy from that fateful trial and curse.
It's another compelling example of how an intense emotional event, this man's rage and final curse, might leave an indelible mark on a physical structure, affecting it for over a century. Really highlights the power of belief and the potential for human emotion to imprint on the physical world.
Absolutely.
Finally, in this section, we visit a battlefield, Pea Ridge Military Park in Garfield. As you might expect from a site of such a significant Civil War battle, the echoes of that conflict are said to linger, replaying moments of intense human drama.
Battlefields are inherently charged places, aren't they? Saturated with the energy of conflict, courage, fear, immense loss. Our sources highlight visitors claiming to hear ghostly musket fire in the middle of the night.
Phantom battles.
Exactly. A direct auditory echo of the intense fighting that happened there during the Battle of Pea Ridge. A classic example of a residual haunting, a traumatic event replaying in the environment.
And it's not just sounds, right?
No, there are also reports of seeing spectral soldiers, the ghosts from the Battle of Pea Ridge themselves, being seen on the premises. Some visitors even describe that unsettling feeling of being followed by spirits they can't see.
Just a presence.
Yeah, our pervasive, unseen presence that hints at something more aware, more intelligent maybe. It's a chilling reminder of the sheer human cost of war, potentially eternally replaying for those sensitive enough to perceive it.
What's fascinating about these military and public sites is how the documented history provides such a clear context for the hauntings. It lets us understand the potential why behind these presences, making the stories resonate more deeply. The weight of history really matters here.
It absolutely does.
Now let's step away from historic buildings and battlefields and venture out onto the open roads and remote stretches of Arkansas. Here, the unexplained takes on a different form. Mysterious lights and vanishing figures. These roadside phenomena often blur the line between traditional ghost stories and something else entirely.
These are often the most intriguing cases because they're less confined to a specific building, more tied to a landscape or a pathway, a journey. They pose a unique challenge, asking us, are we dealing with a true haunting, a specific spirit, a residual echo, or maybe a natural, just unexplained phenomenon?
Right, the ambiguity.
Exactly. That ambiguity is what makes them so compelling.
And that's precisely the question at the heart of the Gurdon Ghost Light. This phenomenon has been reported for decades along a remote stretch of railroad tracks outside Gurdon, a mystery that's endured for nearly a century now.
What's fascinating is the consistent description. It's this mysterious floating light, sometimes described as bobbing or swaying, seen on dark evenings. It started appearing back in the 1930s. And crucially, it's not just local hearsay.
It's been documented.
Yeah, the accounts we've examined confirm it has been televised, it's been photographed. It's generally accepted that the light itself genuinely exists. The light is real. Why it's there is the mystery.
Okay, so the core question. Ghost light or natural phenomenon? The ghostly theory is pretty compelling and dramatic.
What's the story?
In 1931, supposedly 2 railroad men had an argument right near there, and one was killed. The murderer was caught and eventually executed. Many locals believe the light is the murdered man's lantern.
Still searching.
Yeah, forever searching the tracks, maybe for his lost head or maybe seeking justice. It's a classic tale of a restless spirit tied to a tragic, violent end.
Okay, that's the ghost theory. What about the scientific one?
Well, there's a compelling scientific counterpoint our sources mention. Some theories suggest that stress on the quartz crystals underneath Gurdon, apparently there's a lot of quartz there, causes them to emit electricity, piezoelectricity or triboluminescence.
Ah, so geological energy.
Could be. It offers a more natural, less supernatural explanation. So we're left with this enduring mystery. No one really knows the reason the light appears. It leaves it entirely up to you, the listener, to decide which explanation feels right. A great example of local legend meeting scientific inquiry with neither fully solving the puzzle.
And that ambiguity is part of its enduring allure, isn't it?
Definitely keeps you guessing. And speaking of roadside encounters, few are as classic and chilling as the vanishing hitchhiker of Highway 365 near Woodson and Redfield. This is like the quintessential ghost story, played out time and again.
This legend is truly iconic.
Yeah.
Our sources set the scene perfectly. Dark and stormy night, of course.
Yeah.
A driver picks up a young woman in a white dress, completely soaked. He kindly offers her a ride to an address she gives him in Redfield. When he gets there, he turns around, and she's simply vanished from the car, maybe leaving just a damp spot on the seat.
Instant chills.
Right, an immediate jolt of the unexplained.
And the explanation from the person at the house is just as classic and heartbreaking.
Let me guess it was their daughter.
Exactly. Her daughter had been killed years prior and apparently tries to hitchhike home every year on the anniversary of her death. A recurring tragedy, forever replaying. A spectral journey home that never quite makes it.
Wow. And like many enduring legends, there are variations, right?
Yeah, our sources mention different versions. One common one is the driver gives the hitchhiker his coat because she's cold and wet. Later, maybe feeling concerned or curious, he goes back to the house or even finds her grave, and the coat is mysteriously draped over her headstone.
Confirming her identity. Those little shifts in the narrative make the story adaptable, memorable, helps it become ingrained in local lore.
Totally. And our sources confirm that drivers still claim to see the girl, making it one of Arkansas's most enduring and popular ghost stories. A legend that just refuses to fade away.
Some spirits seem truly tied to their final journey, forever retracing those steps.
It seems so. Next up, another railway haunting, but with a very specific visual. The Crosset Railroad tracks at Marais-Celine Road. Here, it's not a floating light, but a swinging one.
A swinging light.
Yeah. Reports describe this unusual swinging light wandering the tracks at this specific crossing, and the local legend tied to it is pretty grim.
How grim?
It's believed the light comes from the spirit of a man who was tragically decapitated by a train, and he's now forever searching for his head.
Oof. That's macabre. The light itself represents the desperate, eternal search. Very literal, very unsettling.
Vivid and gruesome, for sure. And these aren't the only eerie lights reported across the state. It seems to be a widespread phenomenon. Our sources mention a couple of others worth noting briefly.
Oh, yeah.
There are the Dover lights near Dover, described as eerie, mysterious lights. The sources basically say, go investigate them yourself if you're curious.
An open invitation to the brave.
Pretty much. Then, in Woodson, you have the Woodson lateral lights. These are described as ghostly lights appearing at night that reportedly follow travelers.
Follow them. That's much creepier than just seeing a light.
Yeah, an unsettling, persistent companion on a lonely road. These widespread accounts suggest that unexplained light phenomena are a really significant part of Arkansas's paranormal landscape, blurring those lines between known science and the truly mysterious.
It really paints a picture of a state where the veil between worlds seems particularly thin, especially out on those dark rural roads, venturing into the unknown indeed.
As our deep dive continues, we move into places that are, by their very nature, transitions, cemeteries and bridges. These sites, representing final resting places or crossings between points, are often thought to be thresholds to the other side. Natural magnets for lingering spirits, places where boundaries might be thinner.
The symbolism there is incredibly potent, isn't it? Cemeteries are where the physical journey ends and maybe a different journey begins. And bridges literally span divides, land, communities, perhaps even dimensions.
Liminal spaces.
Exactly. Both are liminal spaces, places where those boundaries might be permeable, making them ripe for interactions with whatever lies beyond.
Let's begin with Mount Holly Cemetery in Little Rock. This is a beautiful 19th century cemetery, often called the Westminster Abbey of Arkansas. It's the final resting place for many prominent citizens, a real historical who's who.
Its historical significance is undeniable, like an open-air museum. Now, the accounts we examined explain something interesting. When the cemetery was established, remains were actually moved there from family plots, homes, churchyards nearby.
Oh, reinterred.
Yes, and the pervasive belief is that disturbing the dead in this way can activate spirits, unsettling them from their original resting places and concentrating their energy in this new location. That act of reinterment, however well-intentioned, might have inadvertently amplified the paranormal energy.
And the reports certainly seem to align with that idea. People claim eerie sightings of spirits roaming the grounds at night, apparitions drifting between gravestones, statues appearing to move.
Moving statues.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, and hearing disembodied voices. Some even claim to have photographic evidence of ghosts and unexplained lights, which, if verifiable, adds a whole other dimension beyond feelings and sounds. It's a place where history isn't just remembered, it's actively felt, maybe even seen.
A poignant reminder that even in death, some presences aren't easily contained. Now, if Mount Holly has a somber beauty, wait until you hear about Avon Cemetery in DeQueen. This is truly one of the saddest stories we came across.
It's a tragedy that's become cemented in local legend, a narrative of unimaginable loss. The story goes, a woman was struggling to draw water from an old well there.
Okay.
And just for a moment, she sat her young child on the well's edge while she worked. In just a horrifying instant, the child slipped, fell in, and drowned.
Oh, God. That's horrific.
The suddenness, the finality, almost impossible to comprehend.
And the emotional intensity of that moment, a mother's sudden, unimaginable grief, seems to have permanently imprinted itself on the location. Our sources state that the spirit of this mourning mother is still seen wandering the graveyard, endlessly searching maybe, a perpetual loop of sorrow.
That's heartbreaking.
And what's even more chilling, and makes it almost interactive, is the detail that if you drop a rock into that very well, it said you can evoke the sound of a baby crying. That's the legend. It's a haunting that almost compels participation, even inadvertently, as if the trauma itself is reaching out, a residual echo demanding to be heard.
That's deeply powerful and tragic. From the depths of let's ascend to the architectural beauty of Cotter Bridge, also known as the R.M. Ruthven Bridge. It's this concrete rainbow arch bridge built in the 1930s over the White River. Looks lovely from a distance.
Very picturesque.
Yeah.
But despite its elegance, the bridge seems to carry a distinctly unsettling atmosphere. Many who cross it report just an eerie feeling, a definite shift.
And specific sightings, too.
Yeah. Visitors claim to see children playing on or near it, perhaps residual echoes or innocent spirits. There are also reports of seeing a woman being chased by hounds.
Chased by hounds.
Very specific. Also, sounds of a baby crying and hearing distinct footsteps when no one is there. It's a whole confluence of different paranormal activities, suggesting maybe multiple presences or a concentration of various traumatic events tied to the river or the bridge itself over the years.
From one bridge to a vanished one, the Springfield Ozarks Bridge near Conway. This was once an iron bowstring truss bridge spanning Cadron Creek. It's not there anymore in its original spot, but the area where it once stood is still marked by strange occurrences. It suggests hauntings aren't always tied to the physical structure.
The physical structure might be gone, but the history and perhaps the energetic imprint remain. Our sources describe reports of ominous noises specifically, a girl's scream and a baby's cry heard in the area where the bridge used to be. No discernible source.
Just the sounds linger.
Seems so. Strongly suggests a residual haunting, with the sounds of past trauma replay regardless of the structure's physical presence. The haunting seems tied to the land or the event itself.
What's interesting is the bridge itself wasn't destroyed. It was actually meticulously restored and moved. It now spans a cove at Beaver Fork Park Lake in Conway. It looks beautiful there.
Oh, so it was saved.
Yeah. But while its physical presence is elsewhere, the old site remains haunted by those chilling echoes. Highlights how some energies might cling to the very ground where events occurred.
It raises that interesting question again. Is a haunting tied to the structure, the land, or both? Here, it seems undeniably the land, showing the persistence of residual energy even after the object is moved.
Next, the Wolf Bayou Bridge in Scott. This bridge was replaced back in 2005, but it's still a hot topic for ghost hunters. Draws them to its chilling legend.
Another compelling example where the old structure is gone, but the haunting persists. Seems tied to the profound tragedy that happened there. The legend involves a mother and her young child who both died after driving off the bridge.
Another devastating accident.
Exactly. The kind of sudden, impactful loss that often seems to leave a powerful, energetic imprint.
And the encounters people might have there are truly unsettling and kind of interactive, apparently.
How so?
Our sources mention seeing an ethereal figure in white. Or, get this, experiencing sudden vehicle trouble, car stalling, lights flickering right after crying out the legendary phrase, "Mama Lou, I've got your baby."
Whoa. Saying the phrase triggers something.
That's the claim. It's like an interactive dare. Speaking the phrase seems to provoke a direct response, suggesting maybe an intelligent entity still capable of being provoked or seeking some kind of acknowledgement.
That's fascinating and chilling. It suggests certain actions or words can trigger a direct, perhaps even intelligent reaction from lingering spirits, like they're listening and can respond, transforms observing into potentially terrifying interaction.
Definitely ups the ante. Finally, in this section, we have the Bono Bridge in Bono. The original bridge was demolished in 2011, but the area is still said to be haunted, even without the physical structure.
The legend here is a gripping one, rooted deeply in fear, a visceral experience. Locals used to say that people would stand on the bridge, looking down at the railroad tracks below.
Okay.
And as a train approached, they would feel this sudden, intense terror of nearly being struck. Almost a psychological haunting, where the fear itself is replayed. A very specific, unsettling sensation.
Then even with the bridge gone.
Yep. Even with the bridge gone, our sources state that creepy noises and apparitions are still reported in the area. Suggest that the dramatic tension and profound fear associated with that spot have indelibly marked it, continuing to terrify visitors. These bridges, standing or gone, seem like conduits for lingering emotions and tragic echoes.
Forever connecting the past to the present.
Seems that way.
Okay, moving beyond traditional ghosts and spectral figures, Arkansas also boasts this collection of really unique legends and cryptids that stretch the boundaries of the unexplained. These are stories that venture into the realm of strange creatures, ancient mysteries, proving that not all things that go bump in the night are ghosts. Some are far more physical or far more ancient.
This section really broadens our understanding of what makes a place haunted or mysterious, doesn't it? It shifts from the deceased human spirit to cryptids, creatures whose existence is unproven, and these ancient, inexplicable disappearances. It challenges our perception of what kind of unexplained phenomena can haunt a landscape. It takes us beyond the veil, into the woods, even back in time.
And the most nationally known and arguably weirdest of these stories has to be the Fook monster from Fook, Arkansas. Let's be clear up front. This is not a ghost. This is Arkansas's very own Bigfoot-like creature, a legend that has truly captivated the state and beyond.
It's a cryptid, yeah. Similar in general description to Bigfoot, but with some distinct characteristics that make it uniquely terrifying and memorable. Our sources describe it as standing upright, maybe 7 to 8 feet tall, weighing over 300 pounds.
Big creature.
Huge. Said to be incredibly fast, swings its arms like a monkey when it runs. And those who claim encounters also mention a terrible, putrid odor and piercing, bright red eyes.
Red eyes. Yikes. Paints a truly monstrous, unsettling picture. Something far more primal than a human spirit.
Absolutely. Those details are incredibly vivid, horrifying. Now, while sightings apparently go way back, even to the mid-1800s, activity around the Fook area really picked up and generated national attention in the 1970s.
And the most famous incident, the one that really propelled it into the spotlight, was the 1971 attack on Bobby and Elizabeth Ford's home, right?
That's the one. The family had reportedly been hearing something unusual around their house for several nights. It culminated in this terrifying encounter where the creature apparently reached through their window screen, tried to grab Elizabeth.
Oh my God.
After it was chased away by gunshots, investigators found these large, distinctive three-toed footprints around the house.
Three-toed. That's specific.
Very specific. Provided a compelling piece of physical evidence that really fueled the narrative. These details lent significant credibility, led to increased national attention, and eventually, that 1972 movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek.
The movie.
Yeah, based on these very events, really cemented its place in folklore and pop culture.
That movie genuinely frightened a generation. Now, while there were apparently more than 40 sightings reported back in 1997, our sources note there have been fewer recently. Leaves us with that lingering question. Is it gone? Moved on? Or are people just not seeing it as much? The mystery of the Fook monster persists.
What's fascinating about cryptids like the Fook monster is how they become part of a region's identity. A local legend drawing both skeptics and believers. It transcends a simple ghost story, enters cryptozoology, makes you wonder what else might be lurking just out of sight in the wilds of Arkansas.
A compelling testament to the unknown aspects of our world.
Absolutely. From mysterious creatures, let's turn to an ancient, profound mystery at the Toltec Mounds at Plum Bayou Mounds State Park. You might not expect a hiking trail to be haunted, but this one's connected to the remains of an ancient culture and a truly baffling disappearance.
This is a really unique type of haunting, not tied to a single death, but to the enigma of an entire civilization. The mounds were home to a large, thriving group of people starting around 600 AD.
Okay.
But the profound mystery is their sudden and complete disappearance around 1050 AD. They just vanished. Archaeologists, even today, can't definitively explain why. This unresolved historical mystery creates this incredibly atmospheric tension around the site, a question just hanging heavy in the air. And our sources confirm the mounds served various purposes, with at least one being a burial ground, which further ties it to the departed. Visitors to the park claim to have seen ghostly apparitions of these ancient people.
The people who disappeared.
Yeah. Along with unexplained lights, orbs, even hearing footsteps at nighttime. It's as if the unsolved mystery of their disappearance leaves their spirits restless, forever walking the land where they once thrived, maybe still seeking answers to their own vanishing.
It's a haunting that speaks to deep history. Not just personal tragedy, but the enigma of an entire civilization vanishing. The idea their spirits might linger, perhaps trying to resolve their disappearance, or just existing as an energetic echo. It's profoundly captivating. Challenges our understanding of what constitutes a haunting and how long an imprint can remain.
Next, a more intimate yet equally tragic, unique legend from Primrose Lane in Paragould. This story, contrasting with some others, is about a man and his loyal dog. An enduring bond.
The accounts we've seen tell this poignant tale of a man who allegedly took his own life. And sometime later, his devoted canine companion also died, presumably from grief or maybe natural causes. It's a story of profound attachment, loyalty even beyond the grave.
That's really sad.
It is, where the loyalty of an animal seems to transcend physical boundaries.
And locals claim they still see the ghost of the man and his dog in the area and in the nearby woods. Forever together, still taking their walks in the spectral realm.
A haunting that really tugs at the heartstrings. A testament to that bond between human and animal that even death maybe can't sever. A far gentler, yet deeply emotional kind of haunting.
Yeah, it's a softer, more poignant haunting compared to some others. Focuses on companionship rather than terror or trauma. Reminds us hauntings can manifest in many emotional ways, reflecting the whole spectrum of life and love.
Well said.
And finally, in this unique category, Arkansas apparently has its very own version of a classic spectral figure on Raider Road in Rogers, a legend that feels almost timeless.
Indeed. Locals living on the outskirts of Rogers claim to have seen a ghost-like rider on horseback cruising down Raider Road.
A spectral rider.
Yeah. Immediately conjures images of the legendary Headless Horseman, right? An archetype rooted deep in global folklore about violent deaths, restless spirits. It adds a distinctly classic, almost European, supernatural tale to Arkansas's diverse collection. Shows the universal nature of certain spectral stories.
It seems Arkansas truly has something for every type of paranormal enthusiast. Whether you're looking for a historical ghost, a weird cryptid, or a timeless, headless rider, the natural state certainly lives up to its name in more ways than one.
It definitely seems packed with stories.
To wrap up our incredible journey through Arkansas's mysterious side, we end in a place where young minds gather, where innovation and learning thrive, and where, surprisingly, spirits are also said to linger. Educational institutions. Brings a whole new meaning to campus life, doesn't it?
It's often unexpected, isn't it? Campuses are vibrant places full of youthful energy, but their long histories and the intense emotions experienced by generations of students and faculty. The triumphs, the failures, the heartbreaks, the stress, they can certainly leave an energetic residue.
Makes sense.
The stories here often relate to individuals who left a strong imprint or experienced really significant events within that academic environment.
Our focus here is Arkansas Tech University in Russellville. Apparently, multiple locations on campus are said to be haunted, not just one building, but a widespread phenomenon across the grounds. A truly haunted university, maybe.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Our sources highlight Caraway Hall first. There are two urban legends trying to explain its hauntings. One suggests it's built on a Cherokee burial site.
A common trope.
Very common, tied to ancestral lands, disturbing ancient resting places. The other legend, maybe more recent, states that a student committed suicide there. Both are powerful narratives that could contribute to reported phenomena, like hearing noises in the attic. Shows how multiple potential tragedies can converge on one location.
It's fascinating how places accumulate multiple potential origins for hauntings, like people trying to make sense of the unexplained. Then there's Witherspoon Hall, said to host the ghost of a former student who continues to play a piano in the practice room.
The phantom musician again. This is a classic example of a residual haunting, maybe, where a beloved activity or a talent continues to manifest after the person is gone.
A musical echo.
Exactly. Suggests a deep connection to the art, the skill, and the place where it was passionately practiced that somehow transcends death. A poignant presence, not necessarily terrifying.
And finally, Tucker Coliseum. This has its own unique athletic ghost story. Apparently, a star basketball player was tragically killed in a car accident.
Okay, very sad.
And his ghost is said to have left basketball scattered all over the court.
Left basketball scattered, that's different.
Right. It's not just a fleeting sight or sound. It's a physical rearrangement of objects, specifically basketballs, directly related to the person's passion and identity.
That suggests something more intelligent, doesn't it? Where the spirit might be revisiting places connected to their most cherished activities, leaving behind a tangible sign of their presence. Like a final ghostly game, maybe.
It's almost like a last game, isn't it? A final shot from beyond. These campus hauntings add another layer to Arkansas's paranormal tapestry. Shows that spirits aren't just confined to the very old or the very tragic, but can be found where vibrant life, learning, and passions once thrived, leaving a lasting mark.
A fascinating addition.
What an incredible journey we've just taken, really, through Arkansas's rich tapestry of haunted locations. From those grand, chilling hotels like the Crescent and the Arlington, just steeped in layers of human drama and suffering, to homes like the Allen House and the Peel Mansion, holding those heartbreaking personal tragedies within their walls. We traversed military sites echoing with conflict and justice, explored mysterious lights dancing on remote tracks, even encountered unique cryptids like the Fook Monster. Each place holds its own spine-tingling story, rooted deep in history, tragedy, or just fascinating, unexplained phenomena.
It truly illustrates the diverse ways the past can manifest in the present. Whether it's the lingering energy of intense emotion creating that energetic imprint, or the clear echoes of pivotal historical events, or simply phenomena we just don't understand yet. These stories offer a profound connection to the unexplainable. They force us to confront the limits of our own perception, our knowledge.
As you, our listener, reflect on all these tales, we gently prompt you to consider your own beliefs about the supernatural. Whether you find yourself a staunch skeptic, ready to dismiss these as folklore, coincidence, maybe psychological phenomena.
Or a true believer.
Or true believer, convinced of spectral resonance and unexplained forces. Either way, these stories offer a thrilling, thought-provoking glimpse into the state's mysterious, hidden side. They're really part of Arkansas's unique identity.
Indeed. And perhaps what truly captivates us isn't just the thrill of the unknown, but the deeply human echoes within these stories. You know, the profound grief tied to the Allen House, the enduring loyalty into Primrose Lane, the collective trauma etched into Fort Chaffee, the desperate seeking of the Gurdon Ghostlight.
Aye.
These tales often reveal something fundamental about our shared human experience. Our fears, our hopes, our unfinished business. They ask us to consider not just if ghosts exist, but what human emotions and events could be so powerful as to leave such an indelible mark on the very fabric of a place. promise us to look deeper than just a fleeting shadow.
So what does it truly mean for a place to be haunted in the deepest sense of that word? And how do these chilling, captivating stories shape the identity of a place, weaving themselves into its lore, drawing curious souls like us to listen, to wonder, and perhaps to look a little closer for ourselves next time we're near?
Something to ponder, definitely.